Wonder Woman, issue 18, Greg Rucka writing and Bilquis Evely on art. Alright, so this is the next part of Godwatch. This is the story set in the past. Oh, there was another time jump. The first issue of this arc was 6 months after Wonder Woman appeared. This was another year, so this is now 18 months, as the caption box was so nice to tell us.
Can you remember what was the time difference between year one and the truth?
I think it's about five
I was
years.
thinking, for some reason I had 5 years in my head, but then I'm thinking, did I just
So
make
just
that up?
52.
I think it's a
Yeah.
bit longer, because technically, well, it seems like they're about to retcon the whole Justice League New 52 meeting of each other
Good.
anyway. But if we're going with that's 5 years ago at the start of New 52, then it would be a bit longer than 5 at this point.
Barbara Ann talks to Diana about
Our new
that
friends.
new friend of yours, the Flash.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if her meeting the Flash was like, because that was meant to be
Or-
like 6 months to a year into like Batman's career, or whatever, was
Right.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Ay,
because
ay, ay.
because when the New 52 started and we had that, this was 5 years ago. Them all meeting, that was like they were all operating on their own already for a while.
Yeah.
So it has to be longer than 5 years anyway. But then you also add on the fact that we've already had all this New 52 time. So
Yeah.
I think it's more like 8 or something like that, 9 maybe.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out roughly kind of how long this closes in the gap.
I'm just ballparking it. I'm just ballparking.
Yeah.
Having said that though, I believe the Supergirl Rebirth did mention it's only been months since she landed, so maybe New 52 didn't actually last over that much time.
That's a good point.
So that's a fair point.
There is, I had 5 years in my head, but like Matt said, I don't know if that's just from New 52 being 5 years ago with that stuff at the start, or if there was actually a reason I had that.
But anyway, so it's a year after the last issue, 18 months since the first year one arc, and the whole idea is that Diana now is mostly learned English. She's still a little bit rough, there's the odd weird phrasing.
There's a little bit in the lettering which tells you it's still kind of broken, where it's not fully lettered properly. It's just off a little bit later in the issue.
It
really
gives
liked.
you the idea that the pronunciation, even if it's written down well, like that she's
Yeah.
struggling to say it. She's thinking of her words as she's saying them. She's not necessarily quite
Yeah.
fluent
There's a
yet.
delay.
But I like that. I like that. Okay, we've had a year jump, so she can pretty much know English, but we'll have her still be a little bit rough with it. So it's not just magic. She's perfect at it now.
I really like that the year jump. It doesn't just. There's not a caption box. It tells it through dialogue.
Well, there's a caption box after that.
Well, yeah, but we know it already before that matters, which is what I like about it.
Oh, sure, no, absolutely. But because it's almost like a twist that it's a year later. Because
Yeah.
we have Chase wake up her friend Adriana, who we then find out, oh no, this is just like an AI that's based on you from your like coding that was because you were
That
hooked
was-
up to the machine.
Yeah.
All very sad, but
That
then
was tragic.
yeah, but then she just drops the line. Yeah, it's been a year since she died, and that's how you find out there's a time jump. And it's like, oh, that was good because it made it more of a beat that it was a jump, not just it happens to be a year later.
Yeah.
But it confirmed at the next page it was like 18 months since her
Yeah.
emergence. So you
But I like that it told you first through dialogue, through a story beat, rather than just a caption box at the start that would have negated a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree. So we find out that Veronica Chase's kid is still faceless, and the twins Phobos and Deimos are still making Chase do their bidding because they want to find out what Themyscira is, and it all kind of merges with what's going on because Barbara Ann is actually going to Chase, not knowing that she has anything to do with anything at this point, because she wants funding for a new expedition, a new dig. She's looking into Urska Targa, which we know is how she ends up being the cheetah, and. She gets the funding. Chase is like, yeah, I'll give you the funding. There's something going on here, and obviously we find out afterwards. But one of the panels of this one I really like is when she comes home to her kid again. There's a couple of great panels of her actually coming up the stairs as she hears the dialogue, like someone's talking to her daughter upstairs, and you get the sort of the fear for her as she's like slowly coming up the stairs, and it's all dark, and yeah, it was good. But. So she goes on the expedition. Diana shows up and gives her this watch, and we find out that Cyber is monitoring this, and she's letting the internet, and she can connect to everything, and she's whatever. And Wonder Woman gives Barbara Ann this watch. It's like a GPS watch that if you press that, and she even there's a line that sort of implies that it was inspired by the Superman watch that Jimmy has.
Yeah.
And she gives her that, and it cuts to Chase, and Cyber tells Chase, "Oh, give her this watch," and it doesn't work on phone signals because they're listening in the conversation. They've got their phone bugged, but this works with GPS, so this doesn't need the satellite or whatever. She'll get to know where she is in the jungle, no matter what. And probably my favourite page in this entire book is Chase like making the decision to tell her to make sure she doesn't get that call, because it's like a series of 4 panels, all sort of really wide, thin panels, and it's raining in the window, and Chase sort of looks down, shuts her eyes, looks back up, and says, "Make sure she never gets that call."
Yeah.
And you get the thought process through the art and how it goes, and it's actually really, really well done. And what I like about this issue, and to an extent the last issue of this arc as well, is that it's really making Chase more of a character for me, where I understand her to an extent. It's making her sympathetic, because at the end of the issue, when Wonder Woman, we find out that Cyber kept Wonder Woman busy. She kept causing disasters all over the planet, so that Wonder Woman wouldn't just be going to check on her naturally, because for whatever reason the twins want the cheetah thing to go through. They seem to want the bad thing to happen. And so when Wonder Woman shows up in the jungle, and Cheetah's there, and she's fully transformed, and she's pissed at Wonder Woman for abandoning her, for not being there to answer the call. She's obviously in her evil side now, if you will. She's not in a good place. But
heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. But even more heartbreaking, I almost think, is it cuts back to Chase, and Chase is like, "They're not even going to keep the promise and give me my daughter's face back." And she's holding her daughter who's not got a face, and she's like, "What have I done?" And I'm like, "Man, you're so sympathetic, and you seem so evil in the present day story. I'm wondering what happens.
How do you get to that? Because
Yeah.
it's like she seemed evil, like, okay, she's going to do this, clearly.
Yeah.
Right.
But then she was clearly being blackmailed into it. She was considering it in the panels in the windows that we talked about. And she's sympathetic then, and then she has this moment where she's just breaking down in tears with her daughter. And then it's like, how do we get from here to straight up evil psycho bitch?
The whole thing feels like a tragedy where on both sides, where she's been forced into this hole where she has to do this, she has to manipulate these other events, which gives you this tragedy of Barbara Ann, which obviously affects us even more given that we've had the opposite side of the story where she's become Cheetah again in the last issue.
Actually, what I really liked here is it knows you've read that, so you don't see the Cheetah transformation. We saw that in the last issue. It may have been in the present day, but we saw the exact transformation. So the fact that we just see her come out of the cave as Cheetah, we saw what happens in there last issue.
And what I like as well is that would work on its own anyway, like, because she's in the shadows and she comes out.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to do the whole werewolf style changing scene.
Yeah.
But like, you're right, we did get that last week, so we don't have to. If we got it again, it'd feel repetitious. It'd feel like
it would.
So yeah,
I'm not gonna trust the reader enough to let Evely do that, and so there's like no dialogue there. I mean, it's Diana reacting, but it's more on the page than in the art than it is anything.
Yeah.
So that's just trust on all sides from Rucka, and just how great of a writer he is. Like I shouldn't be surprised because I don't think he's ever written anything that I haven't liked. But like he's essentially writing 2 Wonder Woman books right now, and I love both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. This is kind of like having Action and Superman in the way that he's treating these stories, where they're 2 separate stories, but they're still kind of playing into each other at the right times.
Right.
Yeah. If anything, it's just like, but shucks, like, although you wish that Wonder Woman and, well, if we had 2, the other one would be what, Sensational Comics? Like, he's like, but could we not have both of those double shipped? So, like Action and Detective and Superman, Batman, like those, so we had one a week. But hey, you know what? The fact that it's such high quality, it's been very consistent high quality, but like I said, the emotion was just through and through this. And you had that in your pit of your stomach as well. Like at the start of the issue when Barbara Ann's talking to Diana and she's like, "Oh, I'm going in this, and don't worry, I'm just going off to meet about this." And she mentions Uzkartaga to Chase, and the whole time, like between the Diana scene and the scene with Chase, you know where this is going. You know she's doomed, and we care.
It's tragic because we've seen how this ends at the start of this series.
Yeah, and Rucka's made us care about Barbara Ann.
Yep.
Through issue 8, Matt. Yes, issue 8 was a big part of that.
There's a pause there, just waiting for Matt to go, and that's because of issue 8.
Have to. It's.
But this was another.
Also, did you pick up on what the twins were saying about how the other gods have imprisoned Ares? on with the Amazons, and that's why they want to get there. So
I'd forgotten about it till
was-
you just said it. So, but do continue. It's all very interesting.
Yeah, so when they're, I can't remember if they're talking to her daughter or to Chase herself, but they said, about the gods and the patrons and whatnot, that they're not like you and me, or they're not like you. They're not quite like me. They're different. I think that was Wonder Woman that said that, so that sets that up, right, in the beginning. Is this ringing a bell to any of you guys?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
They're talking about how Ares is locked up on Themyscira, and they want to free him. But isn't that
Right.
where we set up? I don't know if it was in this or it was in the New 52, maybe during Azarella's run, where Ares was in prison there and he broke out.
No. He wasn't, because he was on the whole Olympus stuff with Azarello was completely different. There was no. Ares was Diana's like mentor in Azarello's run,
All right.
and it was the death of Zeus that
Yeah.
pushed everything forward, and they wanted the heir, and Ares didn't want it because he's already too world weary, and that's how Diana ends up becoming the god of war. This takes it like that's the reason why when you leave Themyscira you can't come back, because like the stakes are too high for anybody else finding it. And I thought that was really interesting, considering that's what she's doing with Godwatch in the present day, is they're trying to get to Themyscira.
Yeah.
And she has the two dogs, Phobos and Deimos.
It's a really long game plan, this, isn't it?
Oh yeah, he's got something
yeah.
thought. It's funny thinking back to when this all started. And we're like, oh, maybe he's only got 12 issues and then he's off the book. Well, he clearly had a much longer plan than that. He's
He can.
because I don't even feel like he'll be done at 24. Like when that'll be like when these two arcs end. I feel like there's at least another set of two to
It
go
feels
after
like
this.
there has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this is what Aaron's Thor felt like when it first started, where you're kind of like, oh, okay, this will be a fun little run. And then he just starts dropping these little tidbits and tying stories back into other stories. And you're like, oh, this is going to go on for a while.
I tell you what,
Yeah.
this is going to be a fantastic big omnibus in a few years' time
That's
when it's
right.
all said and done.
I could see it being just the three arc, three sets of two. I can see that being the complete story.
Oh, but even
because,
that's still 36 issues, give
That's
or
a
take.
lot.
Yeah, that's hefty stuff.
Yeah. That's it. But, I said this during Azarello, his run, that it's the most I've ever cared about Wonder Woman. But I'm liking the story better because it's not as, with the new gods, I can't think of the right term.
It's not disconnected. This still
Well, not
feels
just
like
that.
Azarello stuff. For a lot of it was great, but it felt like it was just off on its own thing. It didn't
kind of
relevant to anything else.
Yeah, stand alone, and the stuff he was doing with the gods was just, I don't want to say fantastical, because we're talking about
It kind of was though. It was new
Woman.
gods versus old gods.
Yeah, and here it's just a very straight up story of kind of good versus evil and what that means and who fits into what side. Because, like Pete was saying, in that first arc where we get to know Kale, you're thinking, like, oh yeah, no, she's female Lex Luthor. Like,
Yeah,
she just wants to destroy Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she seems two-dimensional. She seems very,
Yeah.
if I wasn't a woman, I'd be twirling my mustache kind of thing.
Yeah. Yet you see her here, and she has reasons for all of this, and it's almost the longer that she's messed around with Wonder Woman, the worse she's gotten. And so she
Yeah.
can directly blame Wonder Woman.
And it's kind of doing that with Barbara Ann as well. It's like the reason why she became so villainous is a very personal vendetta with Diana.
So I guess you could say this story is definitely more personal on those levels for each of the characters. And each of the characters aren't just these big, broad interpretations. They actually feel like real people.
I think
They have
you're
their
right.
own
Azarello's
motivations.
was very, here's a big theme and let's tackle that, whereas this is much more human.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
there you go.
this appeals a lot more to me, I think.
Me too.
Of the two.